let's take a look at shares of Netflix right now. That stock is off right around 2.5% following its latest quarterly report published last night. And let's take a look in our call of the day at two separate notes on the stock. We've got Piper Sandler raising their price target to $500 per share, maintaining an overweight rating. Meanwhile, Stifel lowering their outlook for the stock, decreasing their rating to hold from a buy. So, Dan Roberts, last night we saw Netflix essentially post double the number of subscriber gains that the company had that Wall Street had forecasted. And I think the debate here kind of splits pretty cleanly along two lines. One, this is great for Netflix, everyone's watching it. Or two, they're pulling forward any demand that they were going to enjoy kind of smoothly over the years to come.
Yeah, I'm with Piper on this debate, Miles, because the pull forward argument is one that we just discussed Monday of this week on this show about Peloton. The fear that, times look good right now, but we're worried about the back half of the year and once we emerge from coronavirus. I understand the thinking of, wanting to see that the company is putting its house in order for when we get through this. But again, and I said this about Peloton, it's a good problem to have. I mean, there are companies that are struggling right now and will thus be struggling also when this time ends. And so in contrast with those, it seems to me pretty good news if you are seeing a lot of additions right now. I know that, there was an Evercore note that said this is probably peak net additions. To bring in a third analyst note into our discussion, this is probably going to be, peak Netflix net additions in a quarter. And it's anyone's guess. I think that's kind of a big call to make. More anecdotally, I would also add on this show, we've talked often about the idea that, as more and more competition comes around and other great original shows are going to be on other platforms, is Netflix really as dominant a king in the next year or two? Is it going to still kind of wear the crown? And anecdotally, I think yes. And it's because of the kitchen sink. I mean, I'll use myself as an example. Just last night, we were on Netflix and we were looking at the homepage and I saw the show Waco, which I know you watched when it was a Paramount exclusive with Taylor Kitsch from Friday Night Lights. And I remember wanting to watch that show, but not having the Paramount service. Well, lo and behold, it has made its way to Netflix, which is always a nice thing to see. I mean, the platform is always getting more content. And I also saw on my homepage recommended to me that Wild Wild Country documentary, which I remembered people buzzing about months and months ago, and I didn't watch it at the time. And I thought, another thing for me to add to my watch list. My point being, people say, well, now that I've seen Ozark and I've done Stranger Things and I've done Breaking Bad, I don't know if there's so much that's exciting and new on Netflix. It doesn't need to be all new shows. It's always adding stuff, and there's always stuff to discover on there. And I just think I have a hard time believing that all the people who've newly added Netflix during coronavirus will cut it when the economy reopens.
Yeah, Jen, let me tell you, I mean, Colts and David Koresh, that is the kind of pandemic viewing that I know I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to be too flip, but let's get to this Stifel note. If you were a Hollywood writer and you needed to write the perfect scenario for a streaming company to do well, this is it. This is the note from Stifel, as good as it gets. We're all trapped in our homes, okay? And they still do not have free cash flow. They adjusted their guidance for free cash flow to be $1 billion. That's better than they expected, but it's because they've halted production. I mean, they still are not free cash flow positive. And what could be better than having everybody trapped in your house?
Yeah, and just to that point, Jen, I do want to note that Reed Hastings mentioned yesterday that production has actually resumed in South Korea and Iceland with plans to reopen certain projects around the world. And then on that advertising side of things, when we think about all the other platforms where there's the premium service or the free service or the in-betweens that offer minimal ads, I think we've talked to a lot of analysts and we've heard a lot of chatter, right, leading up into the pandemic that Netflix needs to add that model, needs to offer multiple tiers in order to gain more revenue. But I think this is one of those instances where they're so well positioned, regardless of the shrinking budgets of every single company around the world to invest in marketing and ad spend. Netflix is fine, right? And they have so much backlog of a lot of content. And to Dan's point, they have so many licensing deals in the works that the likes of Quibi and even Disney have not been necessarily able to forge. So yeah, being an incumbent in this space definitely helps during this time.
But to that point, Melody, I saw that commentary from Netflix, and I'm a little skeptical that their production schedule is totally fine. And I think that they maybe can paper over some of that because of the backlog that we've discussed. Whereas, Disney puts a movie in the theaters, it either moves the theater window or it doesn't. I feel like Netflix is going to be able to say that nothing changed when really things probably did.
Yeah, and we know that just by that $100 million fund that they created to help their own employees, to help the entertainment industry here in LA as well. But I think in terms of positioning among all of its counterparts, there certainly is that expediency or that ability to short circuit some of the lag time perhaps that a brand new player would necessarily be facing right now.
And just real quick on the steeple note, since they were the bear case, I mean, Netflix is a great business. Even they like it at 300. That's it.
Right. Stock was at a record high last night briefly. So you have to like it a lot, I guess. We'll leave it with that.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.